Charts like this does build a lot of confidence. The thought process highlighted here is true and valid on a macro chart. When you actually take a look at the macro level of crypto market excluding Bitcoin and Ether, you do see that it is about to go macro bullish. Now, one of the primary reasons you need to keep a close watch on this one is that as soon as you get a break higher from this level, that kind of ignites a long-term bullish move. We've actually seen something similar previously. We've actually broken this level and started the first round of run-up, then a retest and a bounce. But this time, can it be a little different? We are already watching a level of accumulation happening here. So a breakout from this range can actually create a massive opportunity. Now, will that start just now as we are at the resistance? Can we just break that and start pumping as soon as possible? We do have some resistance to look for. If it's me, I would say now we're going to come back down first. We're going to come back down and more or less retest this range and then bounce off that. Do have a lot of possibility in my thought process. See, if you actually look at this on a weekly chart, you can actually kind of think about this. One weekly candle dropping this low. After which you literally have 3 weeks working higher till this point. So even if we see some level of bullish move this week before it actually ends, we are still testing this level of resistance. And we may get rejected to come back down to test this 300 billion cap. Now remember, it's excluding Bitcoin and Ether, so that does show you a great amount of confidence if it's actually bouncing off from that level. So what are we really looking at? When you actually exclude Ether, when you actually exclude Bitcoin, now we are literally talking about the assets like XRP. And right now when you go into the market, you actually see like there is a lot happening, and especially in last 24 hours, you're watching XCC moving 80%, and you watch Litecoin moving around 30%, Maker and close to 20%, Bitcoin, Satoshi's vision is like 20%. So market is trying to push higher. So if you actually observe this chart in that sense, just this small move up is actually giving you all these assets pumping on that daily. You're literally watching more and more assets getting into that 10+% a day. Some of these 15, some of these 20, some of these 25. And the number of coins which is doing that right now is increasing because we are watching this small fluctuation. So imagine when we actually get a bounce from this level, what it is going to look like, because we are having a macro level and we are going to break it down in a way that you understand it clearly. Why? Because if that first drop comes in the picture, now you're watching XRP coming back down to 0.44, maybe 0.42. It's going to be a buying opportunity. But then you actually take a look at the total crypto market and you're like, it looks bullish. So what is it actually, right? It clearly needs to be studied thoroughly, because on the fundamental side of things, it cannot get better than this. The utility of this ledger is actually exploding. A lot of different stuff is actually happening on it. You literally saw that how the land registry setup is being built on that. It's already a perfect blockchain for the payment space. Now, it's similar to a blockchain, not a blockchain, but you get that. Now you actually go through this and you see like, okay, there is a lot of selling happening. And I'm like, okay, yeah, but the price is still here. And we've been talking about a drop to the next level of support from some time. So that amount of executed sales in the market means there is someone on the other side buying all of that. Just ask, who is buying all of these XRP at this point? Welcome to the Scientific Investor family, where the normal retail guys learn how to become the next top 10% of this world. Right now, while you look at the market, you do see the volume increasing in a lot of these assets, especially in the altcoin side of things. And that's one of the reasons why we are focusing on the market, which is excluding Bitcoin and Ether. So the point being raised by Raul actually gets a wider attention because, you know, the guy is being followed by a lot of people. So the reach is way bigger. And one of the primary reasons for this is to understand, like, okay, the timing can be a little bit off. Maybe I'm wrong, but I do think that we may actually get a short-term run to the downside because the weekly candle does show you that is a huge possibility. Usually this happens in the market. So now if you actually go on to XRP, right now we're close to 0.47. If we drop to 0.44, 0.45, you know, this shouldn't be anything of surprise. We have already done that couple of times in the last 4 or 5 days. So it's not a big surprise factor. But what is a surprise factor right now is a lot of these assets are hitting our targets. Not one or two of these. A lot of these assets are actually starting to move higher, breaking through a lot of different barriers. See, if you actually look at the BSV chart right now on the live chart, the way you can actually look at this is like, what is that asset doing on the daily? It's breaking through this level. We are actually giving you guys the idea that we are breaking through this level, and the break of this particular level marks a huge change in trend. Why is that? You actually look at the RSI, and clearly RSI gives you a story saying this range has been intact for like 2-3 years. Now we are breaking through that level. Something is changing. The level of buying happening right now in these assets show you that a counter trend is starting. So the level of momentum coming back in is huge. Now just look at this from the bottom till where we are now. It's already done a 200% run up. Now it's not that 200% is the biggest in the crypto rally, but when the entire crypto market is so slow, doing 5% a day, this asset just went nuts. Now, it's not only one asset in the market which is actually doing that. We are literally noticing over the last week, we have like 4 or 5 different assets trying to do the exact same thing. And even the XLM, which is one of the fundamental assets out there, is showing you strength, breaking through this range, which is a significant move. Now, if you guys have been following the channel and the Patreon, the group, you already got all these calls. When we were at the bottom, I gave you this thought process saying, okay, we are going to go higher. We already went up. We broke that level. Now, if you zoom in on that, now we get to see like short-term patterns has been playing out well here. We gave you this idea, right? We actually posted this in the group saying, okay, watch this. If it breaks higher, we're going to go higher. This is literally what's happening in the market. Now, why is it happening in that way? Because on the short-term narrative, you're watching money moving out of big gaps like the Bitcoin and the Ether, moving into fundamental assets where people do believe that it can move up. Now, one of the easiest thing which we as normal investors in the market can do is just look at the RSI. If the RSI is actually showing you that it is breaking higher, there is something happening in the price action. The strength is increasing. At a time when the price is just starting to move up, and just try and match up the RSI. When was RSI at these levels last time? And what was the price action at that time? That's one way to look at it. Then extend that all the way towards this area to see when was the RSI at that level after it started moving down from the bottom. We were here. So now if we actually think about this, RSI can reach this level and stay at that range for quite some time. And during that period of time, it can be a year where you actually get massive volatility to the up, to the down. But the run up was a crazy 10x after that point, without accounting for what happened before that. Because if you do, now that becomes close to a 30x move. Now, coming back to what we are focusing on, That's a weekly chart showing you the price action is reversing. Then you go on a monthly chart and it just shows you the bullishness is just increasing. If you see another candle slowly going about this range, that's a massive breakout. And the RSI is already showing you have a lot of possibility of that particular thing happening. Now, do you see a short-term corrective action where you can have massive opportunity happening? Yeah, that is still possible because after this recent break to the upside, we literally did not do much of a retest. And even at that time, I told you guys, keep an eye focused on this resistance, because if you do break that, now you're not going to come back to retest this range. It's going to be really hard for the price to do that. But on the short-term narrative, coming back to this range should be one of the best buying opportunities out there in a payment asset like this. Now, that's just one asset out there in the market which hasn't pumped that hard till now. Because if you're actually running behind an asset which has already pumped 80% for the day, good luck. That's chasing the green candles, and most likely you'll end up losing your purchasing power. You don't actually want to do that. You want to get positioned into these assets before they actually start the big rally. Say you go look at other assets. Say if you actually take a look at Ethereum Classic, you'll actually notice the fact that the trend line which we've been following from some time is still here. We haven't actually broken that particular level, and if you do break that, now comes the big rally. So right now, if you actually remove all those and just look at this asset in the entire asset class and look at where it is and how it is responding, now you clearly see a range inside which the price has been moving, and right now it is trying to break higher. Look at the RSI for that matter. Now, the general view of why all these assets are breaking through the level of strength of buyers do have some reason. You need to think who the hell is actually buying all these assets with a higher level of strength that we haven't seen in like months. Even in the recent rally earlier this year, when we came up to 23, we only had this level of strength in the market. Right now we are above that level. We're getting consistent bullish candles on weekly, which means usually when that happens, either you're starting a big run up or you are just retracing one. Now, we haven't actually done a big run up, so we are not retracing it. Most likely, we are starting the next run up. Now, why am I actually taking you guys through other assets? Because this is the fact. Bitcoin and Ether, you take them out of the market and look at the entire market, and that's where you see huge volatility to the upside is coming. But just before that, on the short term, you may actually see a little bit better buying opportunity if you are interested in that sort of thing. If not, it's completely fine. You're buying at these levels, and when you zoom out, it doesn't matter where you are actually at, or you're trying to time the market, because we are already 72% down, and right now we are like 70% down. So it's like 2% move on the macro level of things. So if you're actually running another 40x from here, you still make a big chunk of it, because look at the RSI and the price action. The price action suggests you that we are at that range. We haven't changed much in like few months. But then you actually see the RSI trending higher. So the entire market cap is showing you huge potential volatility to the upside is coming ahead. But then you also see that on the short term, you do see some correction. So for that market cap to correct down lower, excluding Ether on the altcoin side, what other assets do you actually see having that amount of impact on that price? It should be either the BNB, it should be either the XRP, it should be either the Cardano or Doge, all others in the top 10, because these actually impact the market a little bit further. So that's one of the reasons why while you look at XRP, we are like, okay, we are at a resistance. Are we going to see something bad in terms of the news, the narratives? We are not sure. We are watching this. We want to actually see how things evolve for sure. We want to see if we are going to break lower, what's the volume going to be? Do we really have that amount of volume to the downside? Are we going to get that amount of momentum to the downside? If not, then sellers are slowing down. That's a good news for us. But then you do look at a lot of these payment assets in this market. And when you actually look at each bar, it's preparing for something big. I mean, the pattern shows you it is preparing for something big. Just watch for the breakout, and as soon as it breaks higher, now your levels are much higher. You can literally do a 3 to 5x on the short run there. So don't even think about the macro run up. It's going to be 5, 10, 20, 30x. Now, right now when the market is so slow and it's barely doing even 100%, talking about these 5x, 10x, 20x seems so much hyped up. But then you actually look at what these assets can actually do. It has literally done these magical run-ups before. Even on the short-term narrative, you see a 20x rally. If you have that long-term, you can see a 200x rally. If you take the entire cyclic and the movement there, that's like a 400x move. So when you actually go through this phase of 1, 2, and 3, and then now that's the one leg of the macro cycle. Then you're starting the next leg of the macro cycle, and it is just getting started. So you see these patterns happening every now and then, but the problem is the market becomes so naive because a lot of people tell a huge level of bearish sentiment. When Bitcoin was at 15,000, there was guys who were still giving you the 10,000, 12,000 narrative. Only a few gave you the thought process of 25 and 30. Now that you are at 30, and you know that you can go back into the YouTube and check during this time of December, Jan, February this year, how many of these guys were actually giving you the bullish narrative and how many of those guys were giving you the bearish narrative. So you know who's actually trying to guide you to the positive direction and who's not. Because this is going to help you in a massive way going forward. Because if you're literally going to break through and put in a new high this year, in Bitcoin, a new all-time highs, at this point of time, it's going to be really hard to even imagine that we are going to go into an all-time high. But it is going to do that. We are already up 100% from the bottom. That is in a market which has been really slow and in an environment where liquidity is so difficult to achieve. Central banks are raising their rates. So if that's happening, then as soon as the tapering is coming on or even a pause is entering, you will see the market moving higher. You just look at how the stock market has been performing. Apple just went nuts, right? The stock is at an all-time high. Is the economy working well? Like say, for example, are you literally going out and buying like 4 or 5 different Apple products? Like I'm confused. Like your economy outside, the way I see it, around me, near me, anyway, a lot of people are having a hard time. There are people who are doing 2 or 3 jobs and finding it difficult to even cover the cost of living because the cost of living is going so much up and the payment is not great. So the economy is not looking good, but you see these assets moving up without much of the strength because you are looking at this in a way easily understandable that the price action is trying to go up at a time when the strength is going down. If it's me, I'm like, the risk is so huge here. This is a monthly chart, guys. The divergence forming here like this, I would say that's a huge level of concern. Last time when we have seen this, we have drop 40-50%. So on an average, you may see 40-50% drop. And, that's nothing compared to where we came from. Even if we drop 50%, that's still at 100. And it still shows you that asset is strong. It's been rallying. It gets these intermediate corrections. But what I'm saying is now it's at $190. It may drop back to 100 or below that. Now, can it start today? I don't know. Maybe it can go up to 240, 250 and then start dropping. But what's your upside versus your downside? It's a 25% upside versus a 50% downside. Now we actually understand what I'm trying to illustrate here. So people are going to take profit from the asset which is running in the price discovery at an all-time high when the economy is so slow. And where are they going to put it? That is where I see the crypto market being positioned well enough to show that we are just starting off. We are nowhere near the all-time highs. We are just starting off. We have massive room to the upside. That's an invitation letter for a lot of people in this world. Remember this clearly. As of now, you have like around 69, 70 million people. Okay, that's in 2021, 69, 70 million people. So even extrapolated that till this time, that would be like 80 million people. What is the total population? We have 8 billion people in the world. So even 10% of that is 800 million. We are so early into this. We need to take our time to research, to understand the fundamentals of these assets and the actual narrative to see how things are evolving. And once you understand the macro, the micro, and the way we are in, which is the crypto asset class, now it's so easy to understand, okay, things are bad, at least the way they are being portrayed to us. But when you actually try to break things down and read through this, things like this clearly shows how strong the market is. Like OMFIF actually giving you the idea, digital assets and the future of money, they are discussing this right now. Why do you think that's happening? If they think this asset class is going to go away, it's not being adopted, they're not going to do this. Instead, they're openly admitting that banks are creating their system in order to participate in this ecosystem. Why do you think that is? Because all these big guys, the Fidelity, the Vanek, the Galaxy, you see a lot of these giants entering this space. And banks really don't want to miss out an opportunity on making service fee from you, me, and others, right? They're going to offer you the same service, first kick off all these decentralized exchanges and try to make it centralized and make more money, cutting your throat, my throat, in this asset class. But still, that is going to give more access to more population, bringing in new amount of money and pushing this asset class to the all-time highs. Now, just to compare between what we just saw in the total market cap excluding Bitcoin and Ether and the total crypto market cap, here it's super bullish. So what does that mean? Ether or Bitcoin is about to run higher. It's standing above a level of support. And now you have room to run to the upside. 1.18 trillion is not going to be anything. Then 1.26 trillion is going to be like a piece of cake. Because we have actually seen the price action moving like crazy when we reached $3 trillion. Now, if you actually put things in perspective and just think about how much money the governments have been printing through last 2-3 years, $3 trillion is nothing. Even if crypto market is reaching $18 to $20 trillion, at that point, we can consider, okay, this is a bubble, this is turning into a bubble, but not at a 3 trillion market cap, not at a 5 trillion market cap, in my opinion, because the value of the money, the 5 trillion, which we were discussing 2-3 years back, now that same 5 trillion should be 50 trillion. The way they've actually printed the money, the way the inflation went off, now dollar doesn't have that amount of value right now. It's going down. So the asset prices should go up and match those. The only question here would be, will you and me be there when that happens? Because the market can be irrational for a long period of time. And right now, if you actually look at this, we all will easily agree on the fact that it's been long since the market has been irrational, right? It's been consolidating. Now, markets are comprised of us, the normal retailers, and then the whales, the manipulators. So either they do a price-based correction with the momentum to kick us out, or a time-based correction to make us mad and move out. So both of them works well for the majority of the population, which is 90% of the investing public, the 10% who go through this stuff and who's ready to put in time, effort, and learn, and then thrive. They do thrive, because when the market goes back up, this 10% get the amount of money which the 90% lost. That's the rewards for your patience. And patience is not easy. It's the hardest process in investing, because if it's easy, most of the investors would have made a ton of money. But we all know that's not the case. One of the primary reasons is understanding the fundamentals, choosing the right assets, and then holding it until your targets. So now if you are confused about what assets you're looking at, how many assets you have in your portfolio, a lot of other things inside the market, whether these are actually breaking higher, do we see an opportunity here, and all of those stuff. Now, look at this. We just talked about this asset while we are recording in this one, right? Last 1 hour, it's up 22%. So you actually see what we are discussing. You actually see the amount of volume money coming into the assets as we discuss through that. So if you are looking for that kind of opportunity, you can look at the Patreon. The link is given in the description below, where we post regularly to keep you guys updated about all these opportunities. So that's it for today, guys. If you received value, please do hit that like and subscribe button. I'll meet you guys on the next video. Bye for now.